Hi. Hello, everybody. I am Elle Duncan. This is so strange for me because I do TV for a living. I work for ESPN. I'm a sports center anchor, and I'm used to getting cues in my ear, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, go. And I'm getting them on Zoom. And that's our new reality in this pandemic world. But the beauty of sort of what we've had to learn to do over the last year is shift and refocus and figure out ways to connect. And how else would we have had an opportunity to do something like this, right? To bring all of these incredible people together. You, all the lovely girls from the Sports for Life program, as brought to us by the Women's Sports Foundation, and the cast of the incredible Big Shots. But I'm hoping that you've all been able to see the first few episodes of. So this is such a unique opportunity to bring together women and girls that are interested in sports, women and girls that are playing them, and by nature are amplifying women in sports, which is really all that it's about, right? Is continued amplification of girls in every space. So I'm so glad we could get together to have a chat. We have about 45 minutes, so I'm going to get to it because we've got a ton to talk about. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to the panelists for being here as well. I'm going to get into some brief introductions because we've got actresses and athletes alike that are going to sit on this awesome panel. And we're going to get into some great subjects. So I do want to welcome someone who I consider to be sort of the anchor, the coach behind the coach on Big Shot. You know her as Coach Holly Barrett. Thank you to Jesselyn Gilsig for being here. Hi, Jesselyn.
Hi, Elle. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So excited.
Yes, absolutely. This character has like such an evolution on this show. You at first don't want to like her because she's so privileged, and then you really grow to love her, and you can really relate to her in terms of pressure and just the want and need to be good and to be loved. So I'm so excited to have Nell Verlack on the show, who plays Louise Grzinski. Her name's on the arena. Really excited to have Monique Green. I think of her as like a disruptor. Any good like team has a disruptor, someone that like causes a little bit of trouble but gets into good trouble, if I'm quoting John Lewis. So Monique Green, who stars as Olive Cooper. Hi, Monique. Hey. Hi. There's also always has to be someone who's sort of like the peacekeeper, if you will. And I sort of at least resonated in that way with Carolyn Mouse Smith, as played by Tisha Custodio. Hi, Tisha.
Hi.
Hi. By the way, this next person I hear skills even more fire off of television than on. So hello to Cricket Wampler, who plays Samantha Giggles Finkman. Hey, Cricket.
Hi.
I'm telling you, I'm giving out all of your secrets.
Yeah.
Every good team needs an enforcer, and I related to this girl on so many levels. I'm 5'3", so I never was able to enforce anything, but she is the girl in the middle, the glue that keeps it all together. Say hello to, you know her as Destiny Winters, Tiana Lee. Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hello. We also have some awesome student athletes. I mentioned them from the Sports for Life program, because I know that all of you are there from all around the country, 60,000 strong that are in the program. And so we're super excited to have a few of you here, but I'm excited to have Nadia Pelosi. She's a high school freshman, a basketball player, so she can certainly relate. And she's from right here in Connecticut, which is where I'm from as well, and is a member of the Hispanic Coalition of Great Waterbury. So hello, Nadia.
Hi.
And we're also excited. One of our student athletes is Rebecca Silber. She's a high school junior, a member of the wrestling team. Okay, Queen, from the Beat the Streets program in New York City. So apparently I do not want to mess with Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi.
Hi. And last but not least, you can tell by the insignia behind her, she plays lacrosse. She's a high school senior with Harlem Lacrosse in New York. Hello, Destiny DJ Howell. Hey.
Wow, super impressive.
Yeah, right. I'm
Great
like, so we really run the gamut in terms of sports. And so I want to start here because what I thought was really good and cool about the show is that it does like continue to evolve. And, you know, when you first sort of are introduced to Coach Korn, he's sort of this disgruntled, I mean, I'm old, so I sort of thought of like a Bobby Knight type of character, someone who gets into trouble and this idea that he sort of has to settle on coaching girls basketball. And I think that's like, it's just so simple that it doesn't paint the whole story at all, right? Because it's really about the evolution of the relationship between someone who doesn't understand that world, the world of girls athletics, the world of high school girls in general, even though he has one. And it's really sort of the transformation that happens there. And some of the themes, it felt like every episode we were really sort of being introduced to new and really interesting topics. There was nothing surface. And I think that's the beauty of being a girl, is the complexities of it. It's not just about sports. It's not just about identity or trying to figure out who you are. It's all of those things in conjunction with each other. So I do want to start there. Jessalyn, first of all, sort of when you think about where Coach Korn was at, what's your reaction to how he felt about coaching girls and the idea that he did not know how to relate to them on any level? And what was your role in sort of making that happen, making that connection?
Yeah, I love the way you describe the show, because one of the things I think the show is it's really honest about girls, the experience of these girls, but also the reality that he thinks this is a demotion. And for his career, it is a demotion. But the idea that coaching these high school girls, that there isn't something that he can learn from it, is really where we start from, that he's resistant to this idea that this is going to be an evolutionary experience for him. And then all of us who are here, who are girls, we're so used to that. We're so used to being minimized and being sort of told like, oh, well, this is a step down. Girls can't play, girls can't this, girls can't that. And I think what the show really explores is the truth of the matter, which is that we are just as complex as anybody else. And when it comes to a relationship between a coach and players, gender is not the leading issue. The issue is the relationship between individuals. And he really has to receive these girls as the individuals that they are and the complex in people that they are, which we all know girls are. We just have not been very good about portraying that through the way we tell stories. And so it's really him waking up to that idea that these assumptions are really dated, and it's time for him to sort of be receptive to the reality, which is that we have a lot to offer, and these girls have a lot to offer him, just as he has so much to offer them.
I love that, and it's true. There is a lot, it's multifaceted, sort of the idea of the relationship between a coach and a player. And there are obviously many parallels, I think, with relationships that we have in our own life. But, the idea that, and it is a demotion, right? Like if he had gone to a boys' high school team, it would have been a demotion. That's a demotion, right? So yeah. I think the interesting layer about this show is the idea that we don't run from that you tackled that there are inequities there. And I want to ask, Nadia, you're a basketball player. You likely have seen sort of in the news the women's tournament and the inequities that went viral between the women's setup for their gym for the 2 weeks that they would be in Texas and the men's setup. And they were wholly, different and terrible. And the NCAA actually had to apologize. Have you personally ever sort of experienced that on your own level of feeling like you were treated as less than because you were a female athlete?
Yeah, I definitely see it a lot in my community where like the boys teams are, say, on the newspaper more, like the headlines are for boys teams, not girls teams. That's the main thing that I see in my community. But like you were talking about the NCAA, I definitely saw that a lot. That was very extreme. And I think that girls need to be shown just as much as boys are.
Destiny, I want to get your perspective. And I think, Rebecca, you could really weigh in here as well as a wrestler. What's the most important thing for girls when I was growing up, people weren't nearly as aware. And I've been an athlete since I was a little kid. It was always throw like a boy, play like a boy, be strong like a boy, be tough like a boy, don't cry like a girl. Like playing within yourself of being a girl was by nature sort of a bad thing. How do you sort of promote the idea of being great at what you do without having to imitate a boy to do it? And I'll start with you, Destiny.
So basically I just play as me and just keep on going as I'm going, because I feel like people always want to compare a boys team to a girls team when it's the same sport, when all in all we have different skill works, different ways we play the game, different rules and regulations in which we play the game. So you can't really match us up together when we play essentially two different things at the same time. It's the same sport, but yet the game is played very differently. And I've learned to stop comparing myself to the boys team, because I play lacrosse and the boys are much more rougher and they practically attack each other with their sticks, and we're more so on skill work and stick work. So when I play, I just think more of, I'm going to make me and my team and my coach proud, and I want to play this sport well enough that other people will want to play this sport, because I feel as though everybody looks at it kind of different, and because it's not played like the boys, most people don't think, oh, it's not that fun, or it doesn't seem that entertaining, when actually it's very fun all on its own, just in a different aspect. And that's necessarily how I play my game.
And that's awesome representation. It's important, right? I mean, that's what I imagine, Rebecca, for you, we all kind of had a reaction to me saying wrestling, because that's typically not something that women choose to do. Why did you choose to go down that path?
I think it definitely started with my brother. Both of my brothers are wrestlers, and they practically forced me to join the wrestling team at my school. But there was also kind of like a lot of intimidation there, right? I actually didn't go to the first meeting, because I looked in through the door and I saw that there was a room just filled with dudes. Like, there was not a single girl there. And it just made me feel so incredibly intimidated that I did not want to walk through that door. So I had to get all of my information secondhand from my friend who did go to the meeting. But afterwards, I went to the coach and I was like, I really want to join the wrestling team, but I don't want to like be in this environment where I'm going to be the only girl. And he said to me, it's not about if you're a girl, it's about your strength and like how you use it, because different people just have completely different strengths, and to be able to walk into a match, no matter the sport, and play to your own strengths is really what I think at least sports are about, not if you're a girl or a boy.
Absolutely. Someone believing in you, fostering that relationship, nurturing you, training you. Good coaching is so important. I'm intrigued. I have to ask the cast, because it was very believable from my vantage point. Again, I am a softball player, but you guys, you seemed like athletes. You looked like athletes. You looked like a team. Were you all athletes ahead of time? Like, how did you sort of prepare to represent, women in this role as a team? Did you guys have a basketball background? Who stood out? You can all jump in.
Okay, I'll go. Well, I come from a super athletic family. Like, I grew up watching my brother play basketball. He played on travel teams. And so I was always in the gym with him, just because when you have a single mom, like, the kids come with and you just watch. But I never like really took to basketball. And so it was super interesting when I got the audition. I was like, oh, I got to get back into basketball. And so before we actually started filming and we had all got the job, we did this huge basketball camp for like 2 months before that. And I think it was super great because we all like really bonded and became a team. And I think that definitely helped with the chemistry on screen as well, because you can see that we really became like the girls of Westbrook. Like, you could see we knew the dynamic, we knew how the girls were playing, and then we would do drills on the screen. We kind of knew how each other would move. So I think that it really, really helped. It was really nice. It was super fun.
Nell, you're the star player on the show. So like, you're the star player, you're going for D1, you've got this crazy aggressive dad who thinks that you're the next Diana Taurasi. What was that like for you, sort of the learning curve of becoming like the star of the basketball team?
I would like to say that I did not come from an athletic background. And I sort of just hopefully, I guess so, charmed my way into it, or tried to. And I think the confidence is what took me there. And like, from very early on, I said to our basketball coordinator, Keela Snowden, I was like, I cannot play, but I want to be great. And all of us sort of came in with that attitude. And it's exactly what Tiana was saying. Like, that is how it worked. And the dynamic instantly shifted. I became much more Louise, who's my character. And Tiana became Destiny and everyone else in that sense. And that was really due to the work that we did beforehand. And there was nothing like when you're tired and you're so done with it and you're frustrated and you guys all just sort of push through together. So I think that really helped me get into that more for sure.
Monique, what would you say that you learned the most out of becoming a team?
I think that the thing I learned most about becoming a team is like you're there at each other's best moments and you're there at each other's worst moments. And I think that's something that not only applies to on the court in Big Shot, but like also as our relationships bleed into school and the type of experiences that we're having in our hallways, but also what's going on with all of our characters at home.
That is truer words, right? Because you're sort of in this fight together, and there can be a delicate balance when your back's against the wall between turning on each other and turning to each other, right? So you have to really learn, especially even with you guys when you're training, like it's make believe, but at the same time you were training.
No, we
to Nell's point.
We were running, doing lots.
Yeah. So wait, lots
of karaoke's,
right?
Back and forth. We were working out.
So I have to ask this then, as someone that's never been on a movie set, do they just do cutaways with like the shots that you make, or they make you actually make those shots? Do they like protect you there, or?
There are more shots that we made than shots that we didn't. So
wow.
We actually had to make more shots than cutting.
Yeah, and when we're cheering, we're cheering as our characters, but we're also cheering because Monique or Tiana made the shot, and we know that we get to move on, and that the day will actually end, because if they don't make the shot, we have to stay there. So it was really never very hard for us to generate that reaction of elation when they would make their shots.
I love that. I love that. So again, we sort of talked about the idea that there's all of these different themes that you guys hit, and one of the themes that struck me, I mean, it's in the first episode, was body image, right? And when Coach Korn tells Destiny, like, just very matter of factly, you need to lose 5 pounds. And I'm not one to clutch my pearls, but like, I'm sitting on my couch and I was like, I was so pissed. I was mad. And I'm interested, Tiana, just like, what was that like for you? Tell me about that particular scene and sort of what your character had to do, but like how you felt as just a young woman being told that she was too big for what she was trying to do.
Yeah. So in that scene, Destiny walks into Coach Cohen's office because earlier that day he was like, you need to lose some weight. And so she walks in and she's like, you embarrassed me in front of the whole team. Mm-hmm. You called me fat. And he goes, well, I didn't call you fat. I said you need to lose a few pounds. But by him saying that, I think it was to show that to him, it wasn't about, Destiny's appearance. It was about the basketball, like her performance as an X and an O. But for Destiny, it was personal, because, my generation especially, I think we just digest so much social media every day, and it does a pretty good job at perpetuating just these unrealistic and a lot of times unattainable standards. And so as you watch the show, you will see that Destiny is really strong. She's a strong girl. And so I really love that scene because I think that it goes to show that even really strong people like Destiny can still be affected by these comments on their body because of how big of an insecurity that body image can be for some people.
Sure.
And I also it's an insecurity that athletes can understand as well. I mean, an athlete's body is constantly being scrutinized based on their performance. And I think that a lot of athletes will agree that sometimes we'll take those performances and we'll kind of tie them to our own self-value. So I loved doing the scene because I thought that it addressed an issue that a lot of people like Korn just may not have understood. And so by Destiny going in there and standing up for herself, she was teaching young girls everywhere to stand up for themselves and to know their value. But by educating Korn, she was also educating the audience. And so I felt super honored as an actor to have been able to share a message like that through Destiny's journey on Big Shot. I mean, I felt really special.
Yeah, I think his reaction said it all. Like he was so shocked that what he said could have been taken as offensive. It was like, what? Do you feel like, Destiny, Rebecca, Nadia opening up to the athletes, Have you ever felt pressure as a woman about your body image or how you portray yourself or how strong you are or how you look or your weight, anything like that come to mind when it comes to your journey through sports?
I mean, throughout like middle school, before I really started doing sports, I definitely considered myself kind of like, like larger, and I felt like really ashamed because of that. And wrestling specifically like helped me find a place like that was like you as you are yourself, like without like having to, like change who you are, you belong. And I know like a lot of sports do that for a lot of people, because some girls like feel insecure because they're too short or they're too tall or they're like whatever somehow doesn't fit into someone else's like idea of what a girl should look like. Sports really just helps open that door to make it be like you are totally allowed to be who you want to be. And actually like it's pretty darn cool.
You know who's the queen of that? Serena Williams, right? Do you remember the body type of tennis? Like Jesselyn, we're old ladies, older ladies, seasoned.
But it's fine, whatever.
We're
cool.
seasoned ladies, Jesselyn. I'm just saying, we remember a world before Serena Williams when all the tennis players were wafy and skinny and blonde, and they all looked like country club. And then here comes Serena and Venus, and they just were unapologetically themselves, and now women feel like they can be that, right? Like that's
these answers, I just got to say, I mean, I'm so thrilled to be here and hear these responses. And what you just said, Rebecca, I mean, it's, as a seasoned woman, it's infuriating to me. It enrages me. It makes me emotional that you should ever feel any other way. But I know that you do. And I know that the messaging that we've received is to constantly be informing us that our bodies as we have them are not sufficient, and that you can engage through your sport and feel your power. This is the value of girls being in sports, because accessing your power at this age is going to transport you into your life, no matter where you take your sport. It's irrelevant. But the idea is that you understand that within your body, you've experienced this access of power and you found success through it. It's going to propel you in ways that are so important and so vital. So thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. I find that incredibly moving and really, really helpful.
Yeah, the future's certainly bright, because you all sort of understand some of the things that it would take previous generations many years to figure out. I do want to ask you, Tisha, what I really like about your character is that, from like right away, you were definitely like Miss Benefit of the Doubt. And I'm always very interested. There's this thing called code switching. And I don't know if you guys, necessarily know what that is, but whereas you sort of navigate how you respond and how you talk based on who you're around. And I work in a male dominated industry, right, at sports. And I always find that men say things like, I just don't know what I can and can't say. And I don't know. And I wonder, as someone who played a character that was very much trying to give Coach Korn the benefit of the doubt, how much responsibility do you think is sort of put on women and girls to help teach people how to treat us and how to value us? And how much of that is of their own responsibility to do that?
I think we have a little too much responsibility in society to be expected to teach the men how to coach our women's sports. And I think that should change, because yes, we have all of this, we need like equal responsibility for.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm really trying to get at is, what do you think that your character saw in Coach Korn, who was kind of reprehensible? Like, he was kind of not super lovable at first, right? But you right away were like, let's give him the benefit of the. What do you think your character saw in him that eventually came to be, without giving too much away?
I think she saw that he could be a good person if he really wanted to, and if we taught him how to do that. And he also saw that, she also saw that he gives tough love. And I think that she sees that we need a coach like that in order to win.
Yeah, Jesselyn, what would you say is sort of, especially as like your role in the show is to be the assistant coach, And let's be honest, like your acumen is there in the show. So you could have been the head coach. But right, you definitely could have been the head coach. But what do you think about, because we see that a lot. I had mostly men coaches, but there was always a female coach that would almost sort of be the conduit between us and the man. Like, what do you think about sort of that dynamic and how important it is for men in these positions to surround themselves with women who can sort of help them navigate the complexities of not being a woman, but a teenage woman at that?
Well, yeah, I think that's, I think it speaks to how we need balance everywhere these days. I think that could benefit a boys basketball team, is to have the balance of having a female presence. But I think in this instance, for the purpose of the storytelling, I think Coach Holly does see herself in these girls and is extremely protective of them. And I think that the presence of Coach Korn, what I love about what our girls do on the show too is, for Tisha's character, she also wants to be a better basketball player, and he has the resources and he has the ability to move them forward as a team. And these girls are ambitious, which so are these athletes who are present with us today. I feel like we don't appreciate how ambitious young girls are and how connected they are to their potential. And I feel like Coach Holly knows that about these girls. But I also think you point out something really interesting, which is, why isn't she head coach? Why did she get passed over when the previous coach exited? And we're going to get into that in the season, because I think there's just an assumption that, she suits being an assistant somehow because she's a woman. But of course we know that's not a deep exploration of her potential. So there's a lot of different places that we can go because this outsider comes into our world and kind of disrupts it.
Yes. And it's always because a man with the same exact sort of accolades or resume, it's interesting, like even in what I do, we'll talk about records, we'll talk about these like incredible coaches, and we always just say basketball, but when it comes to a woman's accomplishes, we say women's basketball. It's very specific to women.
Everybody calls me a female coach on this team, and I'm
right.
Like, what?
You're a coach, right? Exactly. Yeah. And it's always sort of making sure that we have that delineation. It's the female, I said the other day, someone tweeted at me because I said the other day, like, we've got, huge Elite 8 action tonight. And I just was talking about the women, and I didn't say in the women's tournament. And they were like, you had me believing that we were going into a men's game. I'm like, based on what? Because I said we had great basketball matchup, and it was freaking fantastic and outrated some of the men. I do want to talk about, because I sort of talked about amplifying the game. And from what I understand, Cricket, you were an athlete before you joined Big Shot. And the idea that you were working on a show. So you were sort of marrying those two things, the acting world, the sports world, and working with some young women that hadn't necessarily permeated the athletic world before their foray into this. What do you feel like you sort of were able to bring that was unique to the character and also to the show based on your background?
That's a very interesting question. I would say, part of it, I have been athletic my whole life. I remember, just to touch on something Rebecca said that kind of sparked a memory. One of the years I played basketball at the YMCA, because I wasn't in school, I was homeschooled. There was a basketball team and they were like, yeah, you can join. I mean, no girls are on the team, but you can join. And I was like, watch out, I'm coming through. I've got a cute bow in my hair and I'm going to play with the boys if that's, I want to play. And so I think that it's just really important to just, take that step sometimes. And was I the best on the team? No, I was not, but I had a great time and I definitely contributed here and there. So I think that that's important. But just being athletic and always having that. I also think I'm definitely, I wouldn't say, I mean, I could be a perfectionist, but I'm very much just a driven person for the most part, I would say. So I think that, and wanting to see my teammates succeed, has always been, it's a big part of who Samantha is, but that comes a lot from just who I am as a person. I think, being in sports and just stuff like that, I've always loved the team factor. And I remember from like the first day, I was like, maybe I won't be the best basketball player. I don't know, because I hadn't seen the girls play yet and I'm not the best basketball player, but I was like, I just want to do what I do, which is cheer everyone on and have a great time and be a team. And that's what we are. So I think that's definitely Samantha, but that definitely stems from who I am, because I just think that having that chemistry and just really genuinely wanting the best for your team is how you're going to get the farthest. It's not a competition at that point.
And I love that you hit on that. By the way, you're such a ball of energy on the show, and I'm sort of seeing that Cricket and Samantha have some similarities in that way. Yeah, you're very much the levity, because again, there is some serious, things that you guys hit on. And you're just, you always sort of break, like when you're coming, it's like, okay, there's going to be some comic relief here. And I love that. You bring so much energy to it. We do have a question from the audience. This is from Christy Patron. And she says, did it feel like the girls on the team felt like a team on set?
Whoever I feel like kind of already touched on that, but I guess I'll start for a second. But yes, I think the boot camp that we did leading in before we started filming, like the girls mentioned, we had a month or two of intense basketball training. At that point, when we started filming, I was like, we aren't faking anything. This is real chemistry. Because a lot of times you head to your first day of set and you're just meeting people and you don't know them. No, we've been training together now like a real team for however many weeks or months at that point. So I think that it was very easy to, I felt like a team. I love the girls. So anyone else can.
Yeah, and I will completely back up Cricket. She came in and like, we would have some very early mornings or like practices after filming. And we're all just like dragging our feet through like layups and form shots. And Cricket's like, nice, let's go. Like she's just about it. Helpful, and that's cheering. How she is. Like,
yeah.
Not. I admit I secretly enjoyed abusing them a little bit. It was really fun.
It was like a little acting. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I liked it.
There's something about wielding the power of a whistle that just feels very empowering, right?
Yeah, you guys got annoyed with me sometimes, and it was kind of hilarious, but I still had a good time. It was just fun. And I think I could speak for John as well. I think that even through shooting the first season, I feel like we all started to feel closer, more and more as a team, which is actually how the story works out. And I also don't want to minimize assistant coaches, by the way, because they are unbelievably instrumental. And I actually kind of enjoyed figuring that role out, and how sometimes the girls don't want to talk to the coach. They want to talk to the assistant. Sometimes that's a really different energy or dynamic that they're dealing with. So props to assistant coaches out there, by the way. They are vital.
Yes, they are. They do so much of the work. Coaches in general do. Another thing that, and I think Cricket sort of mentioned it too, and it made me think about the idea of, as women, we're sort of, we feel the need to be perfect. I went to this women's summit, and the NBA Players Association president, her name is Michelle Roberts. She's a Black woman. She's the most powerful woman in the NBA, right? Because she's got all the players on her side. She represents the players. And she said something that resonated with me in so many ways. And she said that women always feel the need before they go for something to check every single box. Like a man just has this irrational confidence. He'll be like, oh, I'll learn it on the job. But a woman will be like, I need to have all of these things down before I even consider going for these things. And we tend to put a ton of pressure on ourselves. And now nobody's under more pressure on this show than you are. Outside pressure from your dad, and the idea that you have to fill a certain role, and you have to essentially reverse course as well, right? Like, again, I don't want to give away too much, but that starts to sort of evolve as the show goes on. Can you talk to us about the pressure that your character feels, and a responsibility that she feels to her family?
Yeah, I think, in a lot of ways, I resonate with that as well. I think as women, exactly what you're saying, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And in her case, she's really trying to live up to her dad's expectations. And it's funny. One of the things that I think Destiny said about her playing her own game, it comes up in the show, because my dad says, you play your game. And then I correct him at one point to say, it's actually your game. And I think when she finds that point of just playing for herself and playing her own game, it takes it to a whole other level. Which I think is really important. And that was a nice sort of arc to see, which you'll get to see if you watch more.
Yes. So Louise is crazy rich. Like, she does not need to, she doesn't need to get a scholarship or any of those things. Destiny, or Rebecca or Nadia, and I'll start with Destiny. Do you ever feel like the pressure to be great at what you're doing for potential scholarships so that you can have, school paid for? Do you ever feel outside pressure to be even better?
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure on me to get a scholarship, not necessarily from my mother or like my family. It was just that as soon as she mentioned scholarship one time, it was
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Don't worry about money, but a scholarship would help." I was like, okay, try to get a scholarship. We want to help. We don't want to make her pay too much. And like while I was going to practices and going through like the whole college process as a senior, it was like really stressing me out. And then I had to like sit down and just like think like I have to be confident in my abilities to receive a scholarship to even get towards that destination. And I think also when it comes to scholarships and playing sports, when it comes to divisions, everybody starts trying to work harder and it stresses them out more because everybody wants to get into Division 1 instead of Division 2 or 3. But honestly, like all those teams could be equally matched up. It's just about which school are you able to get in, you know? And I think everybody's so focused on getting into a D1 school that they're passing up other amazing offers with a D2 or D3 when those sports or those teams are as good as a D1. It's just different in the amount of money they may have, but they're all really good colleges to get into.
Yeah, there's definitely like an element of, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? And there's a lot of name recognition that comes with, and some snobbery. I was involved in the scholarship market, and it's like, you might go to a smaller school that gives you a real opportunity, but everybody loves the big schools and the universities with all of the money. And that's super understandable. Rebecca, Nadia, like, do you ever feel outside pressure? Have you ever gotten to a point where you're like, I don't love this and I don't enjoy this, but I just feel like I need to do this to make everybody else happy?
Well, I'm only a freshman, so I haven't really thought about colleges that much, but I definitely think that there is some pressure that I need to be good at what I do to get a scholarship because it will definitely help, like with the college process, having that help with the money. So there definitely is some pressure put on me.
How do you think, Rebecca, we were talking a little bit about this on ESPN actually, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, because there's a series of promos that are coming out to really try to get youth participation back up in sports. There's a lot of esports love. People like to sit online and watch other people play video games, but sports are down. And in general, they're down with women, in particular because of the pandemic. Research shows that girls are dropping out of sports at twice the rate as boys are. Rebecca, what do you think for the girls that are watching that love sports, but that may have some other things and sports might not be the top priority? How do we help continue to grow the idea that women belong in sports? What's the advice that you would have for the girls as they're sort of balancing school and playing sports and figuring out if they need to drop one or the other?
I think from like a society standpoint, there kind of needs to be a shift in mindset. I think most girls at some point in their life had the notion that they should take up like the least amount of space as possible, be not noticed, kind of be on the sidelines and let other people take the spotlight. Like it was mentioned before, kind of like the idea that women need to be perfectionists. I don't think I've written an email asking someone a question without like asking someone to do something for me without saying, hey, would you mind possibly, could you maybe like do this favor for me? And I think just kind of that mindset just should be eradicated really. Like women are strong and women need to portray that they are strong, even when they're like told, just like sit in the corner, let the men do the work, And then for girls, I think it's also about kind of just like realizing, holy crap, there are so many opportunities for you. And it does take a whole lot of confidence, but like they are willing to welcome you. Like I know there are not a lot of colleges that offer women's wrestling, but I have talked to countless women wrestlers who are either on the boys team or who made their own team, who like petitioned so hard to the head of sports and made their own team and climbed their way. And then their team became like a national team, like, and were just fantastic. And I think realizing that those things, they totally happen and they're totally possible, is also really important to just like think about.
I feel like Rebecca is just saying the whole word. Like she's just, I feel like I'm testifying whenever Rebecca
Seriously.
talks, right? I'm like,
Please write a book.
I know. I'm like, will you just call me every once in a while and give me a pep talk, Rebecca? I want to close out.
I was going to say quickly,
please, Jesslyn.
just because I think, these girls are playing at such a high level, but I also think for women, it's really important to reinforce the relationship between moving your body and the mental benefits of that. And I know that for myself, part of why I do stay active physically and why I still play tennis myself and I still work out is because honestly, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling really a high amount of stress, which I think women feel because of our desire to be perfect, I think that when you move your body, there's a chemical release in your brain and you will feel lighter, you'll feel healthier, and you'll feel more comfortable with yourself. And so I just think girls, I want them to perform at an elite level, but I also just want them to participate because there's so much psychological and physical benefit from just being active. And that should last your entire life. That should never slow down.
That's such a great point, Jesslyn. Such a great point. I want to close. We have a couple of minutes left. So I want to close by asking each one of you, and I'm going to start with you, Jesslyn. What have you learned about women and sports through your journey with Big Shot?
Wow. I think I've learned how much I care. I think I'm the mother of a 14-year-old girl, which the girls all know because I talk about her all the time. And they're so incredibly generous in showing interest in her. And I think that I am so incredibly proud of this show. I'm so thrilled that it can inspire a conversation like this, that we can meet you, Nadia, Rebecca, and Destiny. I am passionate about this subject. I think we've built some blocks for women that we're taking down right now. And I thank you, Elle, for leading this discussion. I think we should have many, many more. And like I say, I think it's connected me to something that I'm really passionate about. And I'm glad that we can continue to explore it.
We can have so many of these. Nell, what have you learned?
I would say what we touched on about watching women as opposed to watching men, and what you said about even introducing it and saying, oh, I'm bringing in this amazing team, or whatever you would normally say if it were a men's team, and people questioning you. Like, one of the main things that I learned was how fun and exciting it is and how good it feels to be on a team and be strong and be doing this with other girls and women. And I think that if that could that message could get out more, which I think hopefully would through Big Shot, just how much fun it is. There's no difference between men and women, and there's nothing that is less about it at all. It's the same game. It might be played a little differently, and that's the fun of it. So I would say that's been the best part for me to learn.
That's the beauty of it. We're not just brute force, baby. We've got a lot of touch, There's so much skill in the women's game. Monique, what have you learned about being a girl in athletics through the show?
What I've learned through playing women's sports on Big Shot is, it's not that I haven't known this before, but how resilient women can be, how resilient they are. Like how Nell was saying, there's so much strength. And it's one thing to just be a spectator towards, the inequalities that we were talking about earlier. But it's another thing to actually be a part of it now. We have all been playing basketball. We know how hard these girls are working, and to see, the differences and inequalities that we were talking about with the training facilities, it makes it more personal. And it also makes me feel like I have more of a responsibility to be an ally and to speak up for girls who might be put in a situation where I don't feel like they should have to be.
Love that, Monique. What about you, Tisha?
Kind of to piggyback on what Monique said, I don't come from a sports family, but through Big Shot, my eyes were open to how different the world of sports is with men and women, and playing with all of these incredible, strong basketball players who are female. I want to be an ally for all of them, and I understand how passionate I am now because of Big Shot.
I love that. Cricket?
I agree with what they said. I think just really being able to understand it more now is very important. And this is kind of answering, kind of not, but I think another really cool thing just about Big Shot and, you know, the team aspect, etc., and just being on an all girls team, obviously, and on the show, I think it's very cool how, for the most part, of course, girls are going to have tiffs, but I feel like a lot of situations tend to be girls, you know, having a lot of beef or whatever. And I think that we show a lot of, again, we get in little things here and there, slight disagreements, but I think the teamwork that always just shines through is super cool. And yeah, I think being an ally is super important, and it's been fun.
An ally to each other. I love that. And lastly, Tiana, what have you learned?
Oh, you're muted.
Yep, technology. Kind of like I said, like I come from an athletic family, and I played sports all throughout school, and I kind of settled down with crew my sophomore year. And so, I mean, that's such a family sport. I mean, it's just a group of girls. And I think through Big Shot, you know, I kind of had to take a step back from crew so I could focus on the acting. And through Big Shot, finally being on a team again, it kind of just reminded me how when you have that kind of sisterhood with girls who you are like grinding every day with, you know, sometimes it was like 8 to 12 plus another little in the middle when we would film. It kind of reminds me like just how much of a help it is to kind of have those people to lean on. And so, yeah, kind of like what Cricket was saying, and about how it's kind of just nice to have people with you. I think that it also kind of teaches you through Big Shot, and it's okay to like stand up and like say things. Like I was always wondering, why are we only doing, you know, girls workouts, like lesser versions of what the boys were doing, when in sometimes like the girls on our team were stronger than the boys on the team. And so I think that through Big Shot, it really teaches you like it's okay to stand up, and it's okay to like, sure, play like a girl. And I loved when you said that too, because in the gym, our set, there's literally a poster that says "Play like a girl, Westbrook." And so I just loved that.
I love that because it's changed. Playing like a girl is to be smart, to play within yourself, to play for your team. Like it's a beautiful thing. It's not an insult at all. I love when people say I throw like a girl. I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Listen, I want to thank Jesselyn, Nell, Monique, Tisha, Cricket. Thank you so much to Nadia, to Tiana, Rebecca, Destiny. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much to Billie Jean King, the queen. Jesselyn, you're a tennis player. You know, she's the queen.
Whoa, slow down. Don't put me and Billie Jean King in the same sentence. That's offensive to her. But
we're trying to make this connection happen. We need to make this connection happen. Billie Jean King is the one that you know came up with the Women's Sports Foundation to help the reach. And thank you to ESPN for merging all of this together. ESPNW. We hope that you'll watch Big Shot. You guys, if you've seen the first 3 episodes, you just don't understand. It just keeps escalating, and you're going to be able to see the whole series on Disney Plus on April 16th. So thank you so much to the cast, to the athletes, and to everyone that was in the audience today for listening to the conversation. I hope we have many more. I know the show is going to be a big hit. So thank you so much for your time, ladies. And yes, let's go. Let's go. Glass ceiling.
Thank
broken.
You, Elle.
Let's have more of these. Let's have spin-offs. I want all of you ladies to get a spin-off from Big Shot. That's where we're at.
Great. Done. Excellent.
Done. I've got all the power to make that happen.
Good.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great night.